Now we are synced, you and I.
We're like brothers, only
Only
closer.
closer.
All right.
Yeah. We're
Shall-
getting better at these dumb openings, yes.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Backstage Gaming. This is our 10th episode. That's crazy. I'm Chris.
I'm Dylan!
And we're here to talk about games and talk about theater and talk about our thoughts about items 1 and 2. Again, it's episode 10. We've been doing this for, like, way longer than I thought we would survive, but here we are.
A couple of months, yeah.
That's crazy. We have something kind of fun and different today. Hopefully fun.
Yeah.
We are gonna... I had this idea at like 3 in the morning, and I thought it would be, at the very least, interesting to try.
That's usually when your best ideas come.
Yeah. So we are going to take a classic game that, at the very least at the time, did not really have that much of a story to prop it up, and we are going to, in real time in front of you, before your very ears, try to come up with like a narrative through line and turn it into something that might be performable on a stage or on screen. And
again, I don't know if what I have in mind could be done on stage, but like I definitely on screen I think it could work.
All right. Well, we're going to workshop it. We're going to do this live. It's going to be goofy and messy, and if it works out well and if we have fun and if people seem to enjoy it, my thought was that this could maybe be like every 10 episodes we take on a different game and try something out, and maybe do like audience suggestions for games, something like that. But before we jump into that, Dylan and I have not talked in a hot minute because we took a week off of recording for the holidays and for traveling and such, and so
It's true.
I just want to catch up with my friend. The last time I talked to you, you were whooping my ass at Smash repeatedly and brutally.
Oh man, it's I had a bunch of my friends over for New Year's, and we got to talking about Code Geass because that's a thing again.
Wait, what do you mean that's a thing again?
Oh, you didn't know? There's a trilogy like of compilation movies, or there's like 2 compilation movies, and there will be a movie sequel to the entire series. Coming out sometime this year, I believe.
Fine.
No one's been talking about it because I guess maybe Code Geass hasn't, like, it's not as good as everyone remembers. Maybe hot take.
Maybe. For anyone who doesn't know, Code Geass is an anime about. If I say it's an anime about high school kids with mechs, like that's not really setting it apart from.
You're not special.
A lot of other things. It
But
was
what
like
if the main high schooler staged a coup against the Empire, the British Empire?
It was like a real hot show in like 2006, and Dylan and I discovered recently that like we are joined by both not really being into it back in the day.
Like, I liked it, but like more so because my friends liked it.
Yeah.
I had a lot of problems with that show.
Yeah, and so I guess they're making more because the people demanded it.
I mean, like, you know, honestly, like, if there are more people like my friends who still love and cherish this show out there, good for them.
Yeah.
They now have more of that thing they like.
Yeah, ain't gonna yuck it too hard. It's just not.
But, like, no one's talked about it in, like, a decade, and no one seems to really talk about the fact that it's back. So, but anyway, the reason why I even brought it up was because I was talking about that with one of my friends, and so that got my parents to start asking about it, so we watched, like, half of the first episode, but Funimation doesn't have the episode on YouTube for some reason. I think Sunrise used to, but they don't have the rights to it anymore because Funimation bought the rights. Whatever. What is important is that to show my parents Code Geass, we had to go back to the good old days and looked it up on YouTube in the 3-part episodes.
Oh, yes, back when YouTube videos couldn't be more than 10 minutes long.
Exactly. So, you know, like, we watched Code Geass, English dubbed, episode 1 of 3. Also important, it was a rip from Adult Swim. So it was the broadcast version.
Oh, that's amazing. This is a departure from your topic, but I just coughed. I've been fighting off a terrible vocal poison that my father gave me ever since I was home for Christmas. So,
oh no.
If I die, let me die.
Me die.
But I will attempt to keep my coughing to a minimum and edit out the most egregious instances if they come up.
Good to know. You sounded pretty good, like, before we started recording, so...
Yeah, I am feeling way better than I have been for the past week. It's just been, like, a lot of, like, I'm feeling great, and then I hack something up. But we'll hope that the next hour will be relatively cough-free. Do you want to just hop into this nonsense experiment that we're doing?
Okay, actually, there is one last thing I need to tell you.
Oh, hit me.
Jordan told me this literally right as I was setting up, like, before... Jordan's my brother, for the listeners at home. He told me this right before I set up and called you on Skype.
Okay.
Apparently, they are remaking the first Pokemon movie in CG, and that's coming out this year.
What? What?
That was my reaction. And then, Jordan, bless his soul, he repeated it to me because he didn't realize I was saying what in disbelief, not what, as in I didn't hear you.
That's awesome. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love me some Pokemon the movie, but, like, who is this for?
Well, apparently this is the, I don't know why, but this is the year of Mewtwo, apparently. There's a trailer.
We can't do this now. We can't do this now.
Yes, we can. Shut up.
Okay, send me a link.
You know this is important. I don't care if it's bad audio.
Join us join us 45 seconds in the future when Dylan and I have both consumed this media. Okay, welcome back, audience. It's the future now. We've both consumed this media. That was the most...
I'm still watching this trailer. Okay, now it's over. It just wrapped. I can't believe they took the CG rendered artwork on a Pokemon card and made it into a movie.
Yeah, that was, like, so remarkably underwhelming.
Well, I mean, it's a teaser, Chris, but I get what you're saying.
No, I mean, but, like, okay.
Here's the thing. Here's my problem. The Pokemon Sun and Moon anime, which I have not seen, but I keep seeing clips of it on my Twitter feed, has some pretty stellar animation. And, like, why don't we do that if we're remaking the first Pokemon movie?
Yeah. Like, I'm not against the idea of, like, sort of remastering this film, because it's, like, it's an old flick at this point, but, like, nothing about that CG felt worth it.
Also, honestly, say what you will about, like, the quality of writing or pacing for those movies, especially if you're not a Pokemon fan, but, like, they have some pretty good animation.
Yeah. Like, at least do me the honor of giving me, like, a Detective Pikachu garbage pail Mewtwo. Like, I'd watch that.
Like, it's no Princess Mononoke, but, like, those movies still look decent.
Yeah, the animation is, like, fine to moments of being really, really cool and really, really good.
Yeah, so, fine, I guess. Why couldn't you just, like, re-release the original in theaters or something?
It's secretly gonna be Sonic the Hedgehog instead of Ash. They're gonna sneak live-action Sonic into this movie.
The crossover we need and deserve.
Step it up, Avengers.
Oh my god.
Oh,
okay,
no.
But anyway, so that is the news of my life. It has not been an eventful week because, like, holidays are cool, but, like, you don't really have stories behind them.
Yeah.
Unless, like, they're really crazy. So, yeah. I guess we can hop right into it now.
We're gonna do some live scriptifying, for lack of a better term. And we're gonna kick it off with a game that we have talked about before, though not necessarily this exact friend. We're gonna see what we can do with the original Metroid from 87.
Okay.
1987. And in case this is your first episode or you need a refresher on what the Metroid series is, it's a long-running series. It's one of Nintendo... Well, it once was one of Nintendo's flagship series, and I dream of the day it is again.
I mean, Metroid Prime 4 is coming. We did have a game last year. 2 years ago. Wow, it's 2019. So, Metroid might be coming back. Fingers crossed.
We can
Hope
dream.
Prime 4 sells really well.
Yeah. But you are Samus Aran, a famous and kick-butt space bounty hunter who fights the space pirates and saves the day and jumps into danger. And generally the games are marked by exploration and discovering, and they're very lonely experiences on alien planets where you have to kind of fight your way through and find the solutions to different puzzles and jump around and find gear that lets you bypass problems. And
yeah, you might have heard us use the term Metroidvania before.
This is
it
half
comes
of that.
from Metroid. Yeah.
But the first game, as sort of was the rule for most video games in the early years of the medium, pretty story light. And so we're going to see what we can do to take the building blocks that are there and sort of turn it into more of a complete story, kind of a la what the Netflix team did with Castlevania, which we talked about in a previous episode. But to start off with, let's get our given circumstances out of the way. Given circumstances, if you don't remember, is the term for everything that happens before the action of a play that the characters know going in. And we're going to do this with the handy aid of, I looked up a PDF of the old manual that came with the NES cartridge of this game, and there's a title crawl. So Dylan and I are going to do some dramatic readings for y'all of this very, very silly intro that the Metroid series got.
To be fair, a lot of NES games had title crawls.
Yeah, it's great.
Mega Man 2's, I think, is the most famous, but you also, Super Mario Brothers 2 had a had a title crawl.
Yep. I love them all.
Okay, anyway.
Right. In the year 2000 of the history of the cosmos, representatives from the many different planets in the galaxy established a congress called the Galactic Federation, and an age of prosperity began. A successful exchange of cultures and civilization resulted, and thousands of interstellar spaceships ferried back and forth between the planets. But space pirates also appeared to attack the spaceships.
The Federation Bureau created the Galactic Federation Police, but the pirates' attacks were powerful, and it was not easy to catch them in the vastness of space. The Federation Bureau and the Federation Police called together the warriors known for their great courage, and sent them to do battle with the pirates. These great warriors were called Space Hunters. They received large rewards when they captured pirates, and made their living as space bounty hunters.
It is now the year 20X5 of the history of the cosmos, and something terrible has happened. Space pirates have attacked a deep space research spaceship and seized a capsule containing an unknown life form that had just been discovered on planet SR-388. This life form is in a state of suspended animation, but can be reactivated and will multiply when exposed to beta rays for 24 hours. It is suspected that the entire civilization of planet SR-388 was destroyed by some unknown person or thing, and there is a strong possibility that the life form just discovered was the cause of the planet's destruction. To carelessly let it multiply would be extremely dangerous. The Federation researchers have named it Metroid, and were bringing it back to Earth when it was stolen by the space pirates.
If Metroid is multiplied by the space pirates and then used as a weapon, the entire galactic civilization will be destroyed. After a desperate search, the Federation Police have at last found the pirates' headquarters, the fortress planet Geass, and launched a general attack. But the pirates' resistance is strong, and the police have been unable to take the planet. Meanwhile, in a room hidden deep within the center of the fortress, the preparations for multiplying the Metroid are progressing steadily.
As a last resort, the Federation Police have decided on this strategy, to send a space hunter to penetrate the center of the fortress and destroy the mother brain. The space hunter chosen for this mission is Samus Aran. She is the greatest of all the space hunters, and has successfully completed numerous missions that everybody thought were absolutely impossible. She is a cyborg. Her entire body has been surgically strengthened with robotics, giving her superpowers. Even the space pirates fear her spacesuit, which can absorb any enemy's power. But her true form is shrouded in mystery.
The planet Geass is a natural fortress. Its sides are covered with a special kind of stone, and its interior is a complicated maze. On top of that, the pirates have planted devices and booby traps in the maze, and the pirates' eerie followers lie in wait around every corner. Samus has now succeeded in penetrating Geass, but time is running out. Will she be able to destroy the Metroid and save the galaxy?
And then the game begins.
Yeah. Um, so actually, I wanted to point out, and I was gonna read the instruction manual as is, but so the instruction manual doesn't identify Samus Aran as a woman. It actually assumes that Samus is a male, and so one of the big things in Metroid is that if you beat the game under a certain time, you learn, oh wow, Samus is a human, and she's actually like largely human. Did I say? Did I
said
say
human
Samus
twice.
is a human twice? Yeah, okay. Samus is a woman, and she's largely human. Fuck me.
Yeah.
The reason why I'm pointing this out is because we can incorporate that.
So we've got a pretty solid set of like, all right, here are the stakes, the fate of all life in the galaxy. Apparently, we know what our objective that we have to be working towards is: get through this fortress planet and beat Mother Brain. And we know who our main character is. We have Samus Aran, who's the most kick-butt space hunter in the universe. And that's where the game kicks off. And there's not really a lot of like story offered in gameplay. You just sort of like land on the planet. It's like, all right, find your way through. But if we were to make this into Metroid, the movie featuring Sonic the Hedgehog,
Oh my god.
he can roll up into a ball. Samus can roll up into a ball. I'm just saying,
What is
Dylan.
happening here?
One of the things that we talked about before we started recording is that we have the benefit of there being a ton more Metroid to mine from, and Dylan brought up that he thinks it's a good idea to like not leave, at the very least, things like Samus's origin story and stuff like that off the table.
And it's actually funny because I feel like a lot of this would have worked better with Super Metroid, funnily enough, but whatever. I'll try to retrofit it into the original Metroid. Samus's backstory, she has a lot of it. Like, a surprising amount for a game series that has very little dialogue in each entry. But Samus's basic gist is that she was part of, like, a miners' colony in space that got attacked by space pirates, and she was rescued by the Chozo, which is, like, a bird-like alien race. They adopt her, infuse her with some of their DNA so she can survive on their planet, which also happens to be Zebes, where the space pirates are currently, as of Metroid 1, occupying. Samus used to work for the Galactic Federation. Certain events led her to quit, and so she now fights crime independently as a bounty hunter. And I think that's everything we need to know leading up to Metroid 1. Also her suit isn't like, she's not a cyborg. Her suit has like a technology that like interfaces with her Zero suit. Don't worry about it. But her suit can adapt and incorporate items that it finds on alien planets.
All right, so we have our stakes. We have a super objective. We have a Samus. We have an alien planet. And I think the first thing to think about, if we're going to be like, all right, we have to make this into a story, we have to make this into something that is trackable without just being played as a game where it's like, go and run and shoot and jump.
Okay, so here's how Metroid is structured. You are exploring a labyrinth, you pick up power-ups. I think some of the power-ups in the first Metroid include, you get missiles, you get the morph ball, you get the screw attack, you get the ice beam, and I think you get morph ball bombs. I think that is it. We have the instruction manual open in front of us, but I don't want to go pouring through it.
I think that's all correct. So what we can do is we can break it down into like, all right, we know what our final objective is, but we don't know how to take that on. Find and kill Mother Brain is pretty minimal as far as being instructional. So we can turn into like, all right, the first thing that Samus has to do is figure out what that means and maybe find a way to gather some information in this hostile environment. One of the hallmarks of the Metroid series is that they're very solitary experiences. Like, many of the games, Samus does not end up talking to anyone, and everyone that she runs into is hostile. Not all of them, by any stretch, but, like, a lot of them. And that sort of, like, loneliness and sense of isolation is a pretty big part of the experience of these games. That's a challenge if we're doing it in a play, because, like, in a play, kind of all you have to work with is people on stage having interactions, or at the very least, like, in a one-man show talking to the audience, but, like, that's not...
Yeah.
Although, what if?
What if Samus just narrated the entire first game?
Isn't that just Other M? Maybe that was mean.
I mean, like, there's also that very terrible slasher plot.
Yeah. But so, if we're going for a play, that's going to be a big challenge. If we're deciding that, like, nah, this makes more sense as a film, well,
we would have a lot more freedom there.
Yeah, there's plenty of movies that can tap into that sense of isolation, and, like, you can do more with one actor in an environment on screen than you can on stage. So that's probably the avenue to go with, unless we want to introduce, like, another character that's there. But that feels like getting away from the spirit of the game at the very least.
Mm.
You said you had some ideas about handling this particular hurdle.
Yeah, I think about Metroid a lot. But I think, so the first act of any movie usually is to introduce a protagonist and an antagonist. And usually the first act of a movie has the protagonist refuse the call. I think a very easy thing for this is the Galactic Federation puts out a bounty to take down Zebes. The Galactic Federation knows that Samus grew up on Zebes. It is her home planet for all intents and purposes after the miners' colony she was born in gets overrun and destroyed by space pirates. Samus Aran refuses, and so they send a agent to try and convince her. The agent doesn't give any information about Samus. I don't know. Part of me kind of wants to work in the plot twist that, like, oh, Samus Aran is a woman, but, like, that doesn't really make sense with the angle I'm working at, so I guess nix that. But essentially, like, have them find Samus. You can put a little bit of interplay there. Possibly have like, the next few scenes kind of establish her past and, like, create an antagonist in Ridley. Because anyone who's played Metroid, Mother Brain is, like, the final boss. She's, like, the central core computer to the space pirate fortress, but the alien Ridley is the leader of the space pirates. And so I mentioned this last episode, but he is also the person responsible for the death of Samus's mother, possibly father, but I do believe he definitely killed her mother. And so, you have a very strong antagonist there, and, like, even if you don't choose to characterize Ridley, having Samus, like, establishing that rivalry, that line of conflict between those two characters would work pretty well.
Yeah. To take a quick sidebar here, I'm gonna kick open the baby drama classroom door one more time, and drunk Professor
Are we talking
Chris
the
is
hero's
gonna
journey, or?
Yeah, we're gonna talk a little bit about the hero's journey. So they're in film writing. There's this concept of the 3-act structure. At its most basic, you have Act 1, in which you set up the world, kick off the adventure, and then Act 1 ends when the main character is willing to commit to whatever has been established. In a rom-com, it's the main character like, maybe I do actually want to go after this attractive person. In a fantasy movie, it's the point where they're like, okay, no, I do have to do this and go out into the world and, like, fight the monsters even though I don't want to, whatever that happens to be. Act 2 is all about the build-up of action, build-up of stakes, build-up of tension. Somewhere in there you have the midpoint, which is like the point at which the hero is at their lowest and most vulnerable state. To use an obvious one, in Star Wars, that is when Obi-Wan Kenobi dies in Star Wars Episode 4. That's Luke's midpoint. That is when he feels the most hopeless. And then from that, they bounce forward. The tension ratchets up again. You move into Act 3, which is where the climax takes place, and then everything resolves. But in screenwriting, there's also a slightly more elaborate version of this based on the work of the mythologist Joseph Campbell, where they lay out sort of the hero's journey as a screenwriting tool. And I think that this might be fun to jump into. So it starts off with the ordinary world. And like you were saying, I think this would be a point where we want to kind of chill with Samus and see what, like, Samus is doing in a regular day of kicking space butt. And, like, what her day-to-day is, for lack of a better term.
Mm-hmm.
Then you get the call to adventure. This would be that moment where, like, people from the Federation police show up and we're like, we need you. We did bad. We did a wrong. And then we have the refusal of the call. And I think that this is where we could get some of that backstory that you're talking about, that I, like, lean into Ridley a little bit more than they did in the original Metroid, just because, like, at the time he was just like, he's a big lizard.
Yeah.
He's a space pterodactyl. Refusal of the call is where, you know, you have to have a little bit of tension here. Think about, like, Frodo is not immediately like, I'm okay with taking this ring on this adventure.
Yeah, that sounds like a blast.
Luke is not immediately like, yes, I will go with you, Obi-Wan Kenobi, into space and help you with this weird cause. He wants to go back to his farm. Another interesting one that, like, sometimes is used and sometimes isn't. The last little point in Act 1 is referred to in the hero's journey as meeting with the mentor, which is the point at which they, like, sometimes it's literally a mentor. See, again, Obi-Wan Kenobi. He's a good example for a lot of these. But it's also just can be, like, the hero receiving whatever it is they need to be able to accept the call to adventure. Sometimes it's like a physical, like, oh, I have this tool now and I can do it. Sometimes it's dealing with whatever the obstacles are that are sticking in their way. And I'm curious what that might be for our good friend Samus.
What I'm thinking, and Chris, like, we can hash this out, obviously. That's the whole point of this episode. I'm thinking, you know, this isn't the first time Samus has seen Ridley since childhood. Let's assume that, you know, it could have even been, like, trying to remove them from, I keep wanting to say Talon 4, but that's the place from, Metroid Prime. Zebes.
Yes.
Zebes. Let's say, like, she was... Sorry, I'm trying to, like, consolidate all of this.
I'm here for you. This is gonna be a sloppy one because we're gonna be riffing a lot.
Yeah. Maybe Paperboy would have been easier.
Oh, for my simple boy dodging the Grim Reaper on his paper route.
Honestly, I can just picture a Blues Brothers style chase as the movie's climax.
I love it.
But anyway.
Maybe next time. Maybe in episode 20 we'll do Paperboy.
Yes. But anyway, back to Metroid. I think we can... Okay, so maybe this would be a good thing to do right now. Let's establish our version of Samus's backstory. We already have, like, the canon stuff in there, like the Chozo, the orphan backstory, her time in the military. Let's riff a little bit on why did she leave the military? When did she encounter Ridley? Because that is stuff that we have the power to talk about.
I kind of like the idea of, like, what if she's never encountered Ridley? What if this would be her first time?
But she just knows that he's there.
Yeah, like maybe they have intelligence relating to that.
Okay.
And so this would be, like, maybe that's the sticking point for her.
Okay.
I think that could be cool.
I like to imagine that while she was serving in the military, Samus was on a mission or something to take out a space pirate outpost, but fails, and, like, she blames that for being a direct cause for them being able to take over her home planet. Like, I wanna try and give her, like, obviously she has an emotional stake already, but like I want her when she, you know, kills Mother Brain and leaves the planet, like, that is a resolution for her.
Yeah, I feel you.
Make that more powerful, because, like, you know, if Samus kills Ridley and that's it, then that's it. I want to also establish, like, a connection between her and Mother Brain and what the space pirate fortress's presence on her home planet means to her. And so what I'm thinking is maybe when she leaves the military, it's because she fails to protect her planet. She fails to protect Zebes. Like, Zebes now becomes a space pirate haven. And to incorporate Metroid Zero Mission really quick, Zero Mission being the remake of the original Metroid, Samus loses her power suit, crash lands back on Zebes after saving the day, and has to get another version of her power suit. And there are some scenes that show her, like, flashbacks of her with her, not mentor, her guardian figure. So, like, there's a huge establishment that Zebes is home to Samus.
Okay, I like this.
Yeah.
It's turning it into, and hey, maybe that's all we need for this. Like, the refusal of the call can be, like, they know that Ridley's there and she doesn't want to have to go and deal with that.
Yeah.
But then maybe stick with me on this.
Okay, cool.
If we're scripting out this scene of, like, some representative of the Federation Police coming to Samus and being like, okay, we messed up, we lost the Metroid. It's been taken by the space pirates. We need your help to get it back. Samus can be like, okay, tell me more details. I'm listening. And they explain, like, all right, well, it was taken by space pirates. We have reason to believe that Ridley was directly involved. And Samus can be like, that can be a moment of maybe not immediately like, I'm out, but that, like, puts a hitch on it. And she, maybe this communication falters. Samus gives, like, okay, get back to me when you have more, like, direct info, and I will be able to, maybe I'll be able to help out. In the meantime, I'll do some digging on my own. I'm not sure if this is the kind of thing that you're going to want me for. Samus does some digging herself, finds out that, either from the military or on her own, finds out that where the Metroid has been taken is Zebes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that could be an interesting compulsion for her to be like, well, this is not something I want to do, but I cannot in good conscience let my home continue to be
used for this kind of thing. Okay.
I feel like there might be room for another
scene, or
either another scene or, like, another character in there. Like, the issue I'm having is that so much of this is so solitary, which is good. Like, that's a compelling thing, but it makes it a lot harder to parse out and to find genuine feeling solutions that aren't that's
fair.
Which, like, is an interesting challenge, and I'm kind of enjoying riddling through this, but, like, we've discussed before on this podcast that, like, the action of a play is frequently, two or more people on stage trying to get something from each other.
Yeah.
And so when you don't have that, particularly, like, in one-man shows or in a film where you spend a lot of it on your own but for, like, threats, it's harder to find the
so Chris, and I don't know if this will help or if this will just completely derail the episode, but I was when you proposed this, like, a month ago.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this under the impression that we were going to be doing Super Metroid, the third game in the series.
Okay.
And so I had, like, a lot of thoughts for how to tackle that, because that game, you kind of go straight to Zebes. The basic plot of Super Metroid, for those who don't know, is that Samus has the last surviving Metroid. She gives it to a group of researchers so they can study what ways it can benefit mankind. The space pirates attack that research facility, steal the Metroid again, and Samus has to chase Ridley back to Zebes and find and retrieve the lost Metroid. So that one has, like, a cold open into isolation, and so, like, I think an interesting way to do Super Metroid would be to make it almost a prequel of sorts, as well as a sequel to Metroid, where, in my mind, I would kind of do like a Prince of Persia style narrative, except, rather than the movie, I'm referring to Prince of Persia, the game, where, like, every area that Samus visits is a home to her and has a story. And so the plot of Super Metroid would be her reminiscing and remembering about her upbringing. And in that way, I could even potentially see making her guardian as the... Like, it is essentially a prequel about Samus's upbringing, with the plot of Super Metroid as the framing device.
Interesting. I'm into that.
But we are not doing Super Metroid. We are doing the original Metroid. And that's a lot harder.
It's true. I think what might be interesting to consider is, I like that idea, and I like the idea of tying Samus further into what has gone wrong here.
Yeah.
So maybe we can even, get some flashback moments hinting that this place that the Metroid was stolen from, the deep space research facility, maybe Samus was, had a history with some of the people there, or, had done some work with them. What I'm getting at here is
we're talking about the original Metroid right now?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Yeah. What I'm getting at here, or attempting to, is this idea that it is good for your main character to have reasons to care about the action.
Yeah.
It is good to tie things together as much as possible so that it's not just a, matter of convenience and coincidence that this person is solving this problem.
So, okay, here's what I was thinking when you announced that instead of doing Super Metroid, we would be doing Metroid. Kind of take a similar approach where, I was talking about Super Metroid and, how I would use the plot of Super Metroid as it is, as, kind of a framing device.
Mm-hmm.
It is the present storyline in what is actually a stealth prequel. And I think the way you could kind of retrofit that into the original Metroid is that you have it be less about Samus's upbringing and her childhood and her relationship with her guardian and why she chooses to leave to join the military, and you can make the original Metroid more about Samus's life in the military.
Yeah, I like that. And then we have, there's room for these, what I like about this idea is this image of, these long, quiet, long takes of Samus moving through these ruined corridors, and it's dark and the lighting is largely diegetic, and so it's all light coming from her suit and a flashlight and the occasional flickering electronics.
Okay, here's what I'm thinking.
Hit me.
The B plot of this weird experimental Citizen Kane
Yes.
Citizen Kane story, Metroid. We can do various cuts in as Samus fights creatures associated with space pirates. As she is going through these ruined hallways, she can flash back to the destruction of other environments, other areas, other planets she has either failed to defend or has just barely managed to succeed defending.
Exactly what I was going to be getting at.
Yeah, exactly. What I'm thinking of is, in my mind, I have Star Wars: The Clone Wars in my mind.
Into it.
Where obviously it's not an entire miniseries in a 2-hour runtime, but it is kind of the implication of Samus's. Samus is pretty young, but she's seen a lot, and I think you can incorporate that into kind of implying that everything she was trying to protect from her home planet, everything that she's been trying to protect, let me rephrase that. She has failed or succeeded, it can be any number of different missions, here and there, but the thing is, what caused her to leave the military is her failure to protect, or maybe she feels like she can do better than what the Galactic Federation is allowing her to do.
Yeah.
There is a lot of different ways you can kind of work this character angle, but I think what is important is that we establish Samus's successes as well as her failures, and then the structure of the movie will kind of put a period next to that with it doesn't matter, she has failed to protect her home.
Yeah.
And that is her character arc. And so we will I'm getting this sense of a series of vignettes that builds to it's really hard because it's very nonlinear storytelling, and as interesting and fun as that sounds, I have not written enough to properly do that kind of story, or at least properly plot it out in 50 minutes.
Yeah.
But in my mind, it's almost it is definitely an in media res story where we're starting at the end going, I like the idea of kind of unraveling the mystery of who Samus is. Like, the very first scene establishes, this is Samus. She is a bounty hunter, and she is at odds with this mission that she's about to do. And then we kind of work our way back and kind of show her from a youthful cadet who is, like, super into the idea of preserving peace and justice in the galaxy, and watching that slowly erode away with her successes and victories, to the point where, like, we can make the... I'm thinking, like, midway through Act 2, it is punctuated by, the loss of her home.
Yes.
The loss of her home and her resignation from the military.
Yes. I like this. No, because I think that you're kind of hitting on it. Like, this is not a movie that fits neatly into the traditional 3-act structure. Just because, like, again, it's the game itself, you're alone the whole time.
Yeah.
But I think that you've hit on it. I think that the way to handle this is, like, have it be sort of semi-non-linear in that, like, the framing device is Samus going through all of this stuff, but then intercut with, like, sort of Memento-esque flashbacks of, like, moments through her life, and that can maybe have, like, a little mini hero's journey style thing attached to it.
Yeah, and these different episodes have recurring characters. Like, this is where the heart and meat of our drama comes in.
And then we
can introduce her commanding officer, Adam Malkovich, actually make him a sympathetic, likable character.
Yeah. Cough, cough, other M.
Cough, cough, other M.
And
cough,
then,
cough, last episode.
Yeah. And I think that this is fun because there's a way to do this. And I should think obvious asterisk here. Neither Dylan or I are really writers.
No.
We have both written some, but not our forte. We are actors. That is what we do.
Yeah.
But this is fun to talk about, and I hope that, if nothing else, we've shown you how important it is to have people who know what they're doing on adaptations, because otherwise you end up with people like us being like,
Well, I mean, like, I'm fairly confident that, like, if you gave me, like, 2 weeks to, like, plot out a rough draft or something.
Absolutely. Same.
I don't know. 2 weeks seems, like, pretty, time constraint for, like, an entire script, but I don't
100%. But it's been, like, this is also a fun thing to just sort of think about, and I think that there's a way to do this in which, like, you set up stakes that are pertinent to the framing narrative, and so then you can have mirrored moments in the hero's journey. You can have, like, the midpoint, that, like, darkest moment for the hero. You can have one of those for the Samus that we are tracking through Zebes in, like, the present, the framing narrative, and then that can be intercut with the, like, worst moment from her past, the moment from this story of the times leading up to how she came to be in this place that was, you know, her midpoint of that story. And you can build these cool parallel moments throughout, one of these stories being this very solitary trek through hell, and the other being a more traditional, like, story with characters and multiple people.
Yeah. And if you want to get really crazy, you can intercut action scenes with both.
Yeah, now I want to make this. This is cool.
Yeah, I'm glad.
I want to write this and either make it as a podcast or, like, find an animator to team up with, because this seems really cool.
To animate a 2-hour movie?
I mean, I'm thinking, like, I'm obviously thinking turning this into, like, more of a mini-series type thing.
Yeah.
But, like, this seems cool. This is a cool... I'm all about, like, stories that do weird things with their narratives, and I think that this is a cool thing that we have stumbled upon. I think that's probably about as clean as we're gonna get this.
Yeah,
in our
like,
runtime.
I think we can ramble on a lot more, but, like, we
found the nugget. I think that we came to the structure that will work for this. To turn it into more of a narrative experience.
I guess, like, what I wanted to throw out before we started doing the credits was, I think, you know, the whole point of, like, the whole problem with doing a Metroid movie to begin with is, the idea, like, it is a solitary experience, and, you know, if you look at something like Hitman, which is supposed to be a very, like, quiet, slow-paced, methodical, playing experience, when Hollywood got the rights to Hitman, they turned both movies into these high-octane action thrillers, which is completely against the spirit of the Hitman games.
Yep.
And so, like, the huge challenge here and why I was excited to do this episode was we were kind of taking something similar, something as, like, slow and kind of labyrinthian and isolated as Metroid, and, like, trying to fit a narrative into there that hopefully is not quite the way that we're framing it gives us the freedom to make it a little bit, like, high octane and, like, make it a movie-going experience that will appeal to John and Janet at your local movie theater. I don't know. Yeah, I just wanted to throw out there that, like, a huge part of this was us kind of, like, working in reverse. Like, we usually look at separate qualities of a video game and, like, try to look at, like, cool different narrative threads that they have. This was kind of us doing the reverse and being like, this game has all these cool narrative threads, how do we fit that into a movie? So
yeah, thank you for coming along with us on that adventure, and thank you for bearing with us as we kind of figured out exactly what this segment is.
We started by jumping right, like, we Miles Morales-ed it.
Yep. And I think that, I don't know, I had fun. I think that
I had fun. Hopefully it'll be a good listening experience.
Yeah, and I think that now we know this is not going to be a thing where we can come up with, like, an exact, like, beat-by-beat story, but we can maybe find, like, the theme and the feeling that then can be, like, paint-by-numbered in to create that. And I don't know, I like this. I think that this is definitely something I want to continue to do. I
would love to.
Let us know on Twitter, etc., if you want to, which brings us cut neatly to the end of the episode. Thank you all for listening to my terrible noises.
Speaking of weird endings to episodes, my mom had to ask me about the Joey Wheeler ending we did last time.
That was the last episode. It's been so long. Thank you for listening to another episode of Backstage Gaming. We hope you enjoyed yourself. As always, it means the world to us that you are listening, and it would mean even more the world to us if you would tell people about us, help us grow, share us with your friends, your enemies, your family, your pastor, your furniture salesman. I don't know.
What about your rabbi?
Your rabbi,
pastor, but not your rabbi? Come on, Chris.
I'm sure your rabbi would. If you have a cool rabbi, they'll like our show. I just lost completely my brain.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
We're Backstage Gaming. You can visit our website at bsgpod.com. That's bsgpod.com. You can contact us, see some information about us, and listen to episodes.
Yeah, it's great. You can also find us on social media. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, and we are on Tumblr. Search Backstage Game. That was amazing. Thank you so much. You can find us by searching for Backstage Gaming Podcast. We're also on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is at BSG_cast. Please feel free to tweet at us. Tell us things you like. Tell us things you don't like. Tell us ideas you have. And just tweet about the show generally using the hashtag BSGPod. That's hashtag BSGPOD. It would mean a lot.
So if you like the artwork we use for our episodes, you can thank our friend Brennan French. Be sure to visit his Squarespace, brennanfrench.squarespace.com. That is BRENN-French.squarespace.com.
And thank you, as always, to our friend BioQuery for the use of our theme song, Sound Radio Volume 1 Instrumentality. You can find him and the rest of his great, weird electronica at soundcloud.com/BioQuery. That's soundcloud.com/BIOQUERY. That's all we got for you this week. Hopefully you enjoyed listening to us to, like, ramble until we hit upon the nugget that we liked. I had a lot of fun. I hope you did too.
I had a blast.
And we will talk to you again next week. For all of us here, all two of us here at Backstage Gaming, we hope you're having a good start to your 2019. Bye-bye.
Take care.